Hello everyone, my name is Dia and it is my pleasure to introduce the first speaker today, SreeTeja Tadimarri. SreeTeja is 12 years old and going into Clark Middle School in Lexington, Massachusetts. He was born in Hartford, Connecticut and moved to Massachusetts when he was only 3 years old. SreeTeja's favorite sports are tennis and swimming, and in his free time he likes to read, play music, and also play video games. Overall, SreeTeja is a very lovely and balanced person. Please welcome SreeTeja.
Guys. Beautiful. Thanks.
Hello everybody, my name is SreeTeja Tadimarri and today I'll be talking about the United Nations. The 3 points I'll be talking about are what is United Nations, projects of United Nations, and my experience with the United Nations. I will be starting with my first point, what is United Nations? The United Nations was originally formed as the League of Nations, but after World War II, nations were totally destroyed, and the majority of the countries want to replace the old, ineffective system. Hence, 51 countries gathered in San Francisco to sign a document. The document was a charter, and a new organization was formed, the United Nations Organization. Here are some fun facts about the United Nations. Do any of you all know how the UN got its name? The United Nations got its name by US President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who proposed the name to Britain's Prime Minister Winston Churchill. At that time, Winston Churchill was in Washington, D.C. In fact, he was sitting in his bathtub when Roosevelt was rolled in his wheelchair and proposed the new name right there in his bathtub. How is that not funny?
Cool.
The UN headquarters is located in New York City. It is built on 18 acres of land and is built with stunning architecture and is one of the must-see attractions in New York City. The UN has its own post office and own postage stamp. Also, all the agencies of the UN, including the UN itself, has its own flag. There are some main goals of the UN. Developing friendly relations among countries, promoting social and cultural progress between countries, maintaining peace and security, and latest 21st century issues such as climate change and space exploration. The highest official for UN is General Secretary. The current General Secretary right now is Antonio Guterres. There are two main bodies of the UN, General Assembly and Security Council. The General Assembly holds all 193 members of the UN, making it the only body that has universal representation. Every September, the General Assembly is held in General Assembly Hall in New York, followed by the General Debate. Important decisions such as admission of new members, peace and security require 2/3 of the majority to pass. The Security Council only holds 15 members, 5 permanent, 10 non-permanent. There are 5 main countries that can veto powers: USA, UK, China, France, and Russia. The Security Council takes lead on an act of aggression or a threat of peace. After approval by the Security Council, the UN sends peacekeepers to the regional conflict. These peacekeepers are not the UN's own military. They are volunteered people by the UN's member countries. The peacekeeping force as a whole received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1988. Next, I'll be talking about my second point, projects of the UN. There are many projects of the UN, and with that come many organizations. There are so many organizations that it would take me about a year to talk about all of them, so I'm only limited to 5: UNICEF, WHO, World Bank, UNESCO, and UNDEF. And please pay attention to this because there will be a quiz on this at the end of my speech.
Cool.
UNICEF is short for United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. UNICEF collects money in case of emergencies for children all over the world. WHO, or World Health Organization, takes health matters. World Bank is an international financial institution. World Bank provides loans to countries that are in need. Sorry, Paresh uncle, you cannot get a loan from World Bank.
What?
UNESCO is short for United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization. UNESCO strengthens nations and provides education to children who can't afford it. Last but not least, UNDEF is short for United Nations Democracy Fund. UNDEF projects can last up to 2 years, and the project grants ranges from $100,000 to $300,000. In the past, the UN did many great things. Here are some of the UN's biggest accomplishments: saving the pyramids, protecting the ozone layer, eradicating smallpox, protecting borders between countries, and helping the Patriots win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, sure.
Just kidding. Currently, the UN is working on many projects. Here are some of the UN's biggest projects it's working on right now: climate change, healthcare, and alternative energy. Also, did any of you read the recent news? It is said in the recent news that America is on the edge of war with North Korea. The UN is playing a major role to maintain peace by mediating between the two countries. Next, I'll be talking about my third and last point, my experience with the UN. I have personal experience with the UN because I saw the UN headquarters many times on my trip to New York, but only went inside the building once. It was a field trip related to my school's project, the Peace Club. My 5th grade teacher, late Mrs. Sawyer, maintained and published the big book, Pages for Peace. It was showcased in the UN along with former General Secretary, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. There was a ceremony, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my school life. To summarize, I talked about what is UN, projects of UN, and my experience with UN. I hope you all learned a lot more about UN than you did before, and I hope all of you get to go to the UN just like I did. Now time for that quiz. Anyone know what UNICEF means?
Oh, man.
No? No one's paying attention?
Yeah, what a sad.
I'll give you the second chance. Anyone know what WHO means?
Who?
WHO, yeah. Yes?
Wasn't it the third one? I'm pretty sure that was the third one. Oh yeah, I forgot.
Anyone else? Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Cool. Thank you, guys.